History of Israel and Palestine conflict. Centuries of conflict and countless lives lost over a land area less than 10,000 square kilometers. What makes this piece of land one of the most hotly contested in the history of the world? Let's delve into today's video to find out. Geography. Israel, the sole Jewish state in the world, spans about 22,000 square kilometers. It is nestled between Lebanon and Syria to the north, Jordan to the east, Egypt and the Red Sea to the south, and the Mediterranean Sea to the west. Israel has a population of approximately 9 million people. Palestine, which borders Israel, Jordan, and Egypt, has a population of about 5 million and occupies roughly 6,000 square kilometers of land. To understand the relationship between Israel and Palestine, we need to go all the way back to ancient times. Early history. In the 17th century BC, the seeds of three of the world's major religions were planted in the same region, with patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob at their roots. These figures are central to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and their lives unfolded in the land we now know as Israel, the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip. This region has been referred to by several names throughout history. The Land of Israel, the Promised Land, Palestine, and the Holy Land, each reflecting its profound significance to various cultures and faiths. Around 1000 BC, King Saul established the monarchy of the Israelites, setting the stage for a powerful new era. His successor, King David, made Jerusalem his capital, solidifying the city's importance in Jewish history. David's son, King Solomon, further enhanced Jerusalem's stature by constructing the First Temple, a sacred place of worship and a symbol of Jewish faith and unity. After Solomon's death, the once unified monarchy fractured into two distinct kingdoms: the northern kingdom of Israel, with Samaria as its center, and the southern kingdom of Judah, with Jerusalem as its capital. This division marked the beginning of a tumultuous period, filled with external invasions and internal strife. Over the centuries, various empires conquered the region, leading to significant changes in its demographic and cultural landscape. One of the most impactful of these conquests was by the Roman Empire. After quelling a series of Jewish revolts, the Romans sought to diminish Jewish ties to the land by renaming Judah as Palestina. This was a calculated effort to suppress Jewish nationalistic aspirations and serve their historical connection to the land. During this period, Christianity, which began as a small Jewish sect, started to spread throughout the Roman Empire. By the end of the Roman era, Christianity had transformed into a dominant global religion, with Jerusalem becoming a pivotal site due to its association with the life and crucifixion of Jesus Christ. In the 7th century, another major shift occurred with the rise of Islam. Arab conquests rapidly spread the new faith across the Middle East, including the region of Palestine. Jerusalem was again at the center of this transformation. The city became a sacred site for Muslims with the construction of the Dome of the Rock on the Temple Mount, the location believed to be where Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven. Thus, Jerusalem emerged as a unique city revered by Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike, each with deep historical and religious connections to the land. This rich tapestry of overlapping histories and faiths set the stage for centuries of both cultural flourishing and conflict, as each group sought to assert its own claims and preserve its heritage in this deeply contested land. Israel and Palestine, under the British rule. The conclusion of World War I in 1918 marked the fall of the Ottoman Empire, an extensive and long-lasting empire that had controlled much of the Middle East for centuries. This led to a significant reshaping of the region by the victorious British and French empires, as they sought to divide and administer the former Ottoman territories. The region that we now know as Palestine came under British control through the League of Nations mandate system. This system was designed to administer former Ottoman territories until they were deemed capable of self-governance. Essentially, it meant that Britain took control of Palestine, with the responsibility to guide it towards eventual independence. In 1917, the British government issued the Balfour Declaration, a letter expressing support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. This declaration, while promising to protect the rights of existing non-Jewish communities, set the stage for increasing Jewish immigration to the region, which was already inhabited by a substantial Arab population. As Jewish immigration surged in the 1920s and 1930s, driven in part by rising anti-Semitism and persecution in Europe, tensions between the Jewish and Arab communities began to escalate. The situation became even more dire in the 1930s as the Nazi regime in Germany began its brutal campaign against Jews, culminating in the Holocaust, which claimed the lives of 6 million Jews. This atrocity underscored the urgency for a Jewish homeland, prompting even more Jews to seek refuge in Palestine. However, the British, attempting to maintain stability in the region, imposed strict immigration limits, further exacerbating tensions. In response to British immigration restrictions and rising Arab hostility, Jewish militias, such as the Haganah, were formed. These groups aimed to defend Jewish communities and push back against both Arab attacks and British rule. The militias engaged in guerrilla warfare, targeting British installations and infrastructure in a bid to end British control and establish a Jewish state. By the end of World War II, the situation in Palestine had become untenable. The British, overwhelmed by the escalating violence and the complex political landscape, announced their intention to withdraw from the region. In 1947, the United Nations proposed a partition plan to divide Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states, with Jerusalem as an international city. The UN partition plan, however, was met with mixed reactions. While the Jewish community largely accepted the proposal, the Arab states and Palestinian Arabs rejected it, leading to immediate hostilities. As the British prepared to leave, tensions boiled over in full-scale conflict. The birth of the Israel state. In May 1948, following the end of the British mandate and a UN proposal to partition Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states, Israel declared its independence. This declaration came amidst significant tension and conflict, as the plan was rejected by the Arab population, who were concerned that the Jewish minority would receive a disproportionate share of the land. The rejection led to the formation of volunteer armies across Palestine and the eventual invasion by neighboring Arab countries. This period marked a profound transformation in the region, setting the stage for the complex and ongoing struggle between Israelis and Palestinians. The 1948 Arab-Israeli War, the first war between Jews and Arabs, known as the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, erupted right after Israel declared its independence. This conflict saw the newly established State of Israel facing invasion from 5 newly independent Arab countries: Egypt, Jordan, Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon, all members of the Arab League. Their goal was to prevent the establishment of Israel and create a unified Arab state. The war lasted for about a year and concluded with a series of armistice agreements in 1949. By the end of the conflict, Israel had significantly expanded its territory, controlling more than 2/3 of what was historically Palestine, including West Jerusalem. Jordan captured East Jerusalem and the West Bank, while Egypt took control of the Gaza Strip. The war led to the displacement of over 750,000 Palestinians from their homes, an event they refer to as Al-Nakba, or the catastrophe. This initial conflict set the stage for continued hostilities and further wars between Israel and its Arab neighbors in subsequent decades, perpetuating a deep-seated and ongoing conflict. The ongoing territorial disputes eventually culminated in another significant confrontation: the Six-Day War. The Six-Day War broke out in June 1967 after a period of escalating diplomatic tensions and smaller conflicts between Israel and the neighboring Arab states of Jordan, Syria, and Egypt. The immediate cause of the war was Egypt's blockade of the Straits of Tiran, a crucial maritime passage for Israel, along with the mobilization of Egyptian forces in the Sinai Peninsula. Israel launched a preemptive strike against Egypt, quickly gaining air superiority and crippling the Egyptian Air Force. The conflict rapidly expanded as Jordan and Syria joined the fight. In just 6 days, Israel achieved a decisive victory, capturing significant territories: the Golan Heights from Syria, the West Bank and East Jerusalem from Jordan, and the Gaza Strip and Sinai Peninsula from Egypt. The territorial gains dramatically altered the geopolitical landscape of the region. The war also resulted in a large number of Palestinian and Syrian refugees, many of whom were not allowed to return to their homes and were confined to areas like the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. The Sinai Peninsula was later returned to Egypt under the Egypt-Israel Peace Treaty of 1979. However, the aftermath of the Six-Day War left deep scars and set the stage for further conflicts and negotiations over the disputed territories, contributing to the enduring complexity and volatility of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The First Intifada and the Oslo Accords. The expansion of Israeli settlements into Palestinian territories in the West Bank and Gaza led to significant unrest and resistance among Palestinians. This situation contributed to the formation of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO, in Cairo, Egypt, in 1964, with the goal of establishing a free Palestine within what was then Israel. The PLO launched attacks on Israel from its base in Jordan before relocating to Lebanon, where it continued its operations, including acts of terrorism against Israel. Years of conflict ensued, including an Israeli invasion of Lebanon that eventually forced the PLO out of Beirut. Despite these efforts, Jewish settlements continued to increase in the Israeli-occupied Palestinian lands. By 1987, tensions reached a boiling point, leading to the First Intifada, a violent Palestinian uprising that began in the Jabalia refugee camp after an Israeli Defense Forces truck collided with two Palestinian civilian vans, killing 4 people. The First Intifada was a bloody conflict resulting in the loss of hundreds of lives. However, it also set the stage for a peace process. This process began with the signing of the Oslo Accords by Israel and the PLO in 1993. The Oslo I Accord, signed in Washington, D.C., and the Oslo II Accord, signed in Taba, Egypt, aimed to establish a framework for peace and the gradual transfer of power to a Palestinian authority. Under the Oslo Accords, the West Bank was divided into 3 areas. Area A, under exclusive Palestinian control. Area B, under joint Palestinian and Israeli control. And Area C, under full Israeli control. The Second Intifada? Despite further peace talks in 2000, Israelis and Palestinians failed to reach agreements on critical issues such as the status of Jerusalem, the rights of refugees, and the expansion of Jewish settlements in Palestinian territories. Tensions boiled over when Ariel Sharon, who later became Prime Minister of Israel, visited the Al-Aqsa Mosque on the Temple Mount, an act seen by many Palestinians as highly provocative. This visit sparked the Second Intifada, a period of intense violence and conflict that lasted until 2005. During this time, Israel eventually withdrew from the Gaza Strip, but continued to expand settlements in the West Bank, further complicating efforts towards a peaceful resolution and deepening the divide between the two sides. Following the end of the Second Intifada, the internal Palestinian political landscape shifted dramatically with the rise of Hamas, leading to a new and complex phase in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Israel conflict with Hamas. Hamas, an acronym for Harakat al-Muqawama al-Islamiyya, Islamic Resistance Movement, is a militant Sunni Islamic group founded in 1987 during the First Intifada. Its charter originally called for the destruction of Israel and the establishment of an Islamic state in historic Palestine. Hamas quickly gained support among Palestinians due to its extensive social service networks and its stance against the Israeli occupation. The early 2000s saw a significant escalation in the conflict between Hamas and Israel, coinciding with a dramatic shift in internal Palestinian politics. Fatah, a major Palestinian political and military organization, and the dominant faction within the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, found itself in a violent struggle with Hamas. This struggle intensified after Hamas won a decisive victory in the 2006 Palestinian legislative elections. The victory led to a brutal civil conflict between Hamas and Fatah, ultimately culminating in Hamas seizing control of the Gaza Strip in 2007. In response to Hamas's takeover of Gaza, Israel, along with Egypt, imposed a blockade on the territory, severely restricting the movement of people and goods. This blockade has contributed to numerous economic and humanitarian crises in Gaza. The conflict between Hamas and Israel has led to several major military confrontations, including Operation Cast Lead in 2008-2009, Operation Pillar of Defense in 2012, and Operation Protective Edge in 2014. These operations resulted in significant casualties and widespread destruction, further exacerbating the humanitarian situation in Gaza. Efforts to reconcile Hamas and Fatah led to the formation of a national unity government in 2014. But tensions have persisted. The relocation of the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem in 2018 was seen by many Palestinians as an endorsement of Israeli claims to the city, further inflaming tensions. In 2021, renewed hostilities erupted, following incidents in East Jerusalem, leading to widespread violence until a ceasefire was brokered by Egypt, Qatar, and the United Nations. To dive deeper into the recent conflict between Israel and Hamas, check out our detailed video on the topic. Just click the link in the description below. The conflict between Israel and Palestine is one of the most complex and enduring in modern history. While we have covered a broad overview of the key events and shifts in this ongoing struggle, the story is far from over. Understanding the deep historical roots and the many layers of this conflict is crucial for anyone seeking to grasp the current dynamics and future possibilities in the region. Thank you for watching today's video. If you find this information useful, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon to get instant notifications of upcoming videos. And if you're craving more historical deep dives, tell us what other topics you'd like us to explore. We love hearing from you and bringing history to life.